So good afternoon, guys. It's too short screen ratio. Let me check. Is it fine? Yeah, myself, Avinash. Is the resolution is okay? Okay, good, right? Let's start. Yeah, so let me introduce myself. Okay. So see, myself, Avinash Gore. I'll be going to take care of your ASA batch here onwards. And let me just go with your topology first. So let's have ASA here. Little bit slow it is. I'll just switch to the third floor Wi-Fi. Okay, give me a second. संजीव, अरे पासवर्ड बताओ थर्ड फ्लोर का। मेरे फोन में। अरे so we'll have one ASA here. Let's have one will take as an inside router, one as a outside. So let's say here router. Okay, here this will act as an inside switch. We'll take one switch as outside switch. Let's rename this as a inside router. Okay, and let's have one Windows system here. So this will be your internal infrastructure. So we'll connect here to gig 0/1. I guess you guys are following the same topology, right? Or you are following any different one? And this router will be acting as your DMZ router, demilitarized zone router. And let's have it here. Now start all the devices. Here we'll be taking network, which is 10.1.1.0/24 network. Okay. This will be your management. So let's call it MGMT. For management, we'll be taking IP address, which is 10.20.20/24. Security level will be 100 only. DMZ will change it to 50. Let's go and have a little different value at your DMZ. Network will be using, that is 10.2.2.2. Okay, and security level will be 50. Now addresses, let's assign it. Let's say 10.2.2.1. So here we'll go with the outside one. An outside network, let's assign IP to 11.1.1.1. And security level will be 0. 1.1.125/24, and other side will go on will give /26. Okay, so let's first do basic configuration. Skinny configuration, we'll do it on all the routers and all the devices here. We'll just assign these numbers here. And then lastly, we'll go and we'll configure your ASA. Then we'll start with your network translation. Okay, I guess ASA is not booting up. Let's try restarting it. Wipe this device and start it again. Let's call this router inside. Interface gig0/0. IP address 10.1.1.125/24. Okay, so we'll be pointing one default route toward your ASA. So toward the firewall, we'll have one default route here. So let's come out. IP route, any network, any subnet. And let's consider we'll be going to use 10.1.1.10. So we'll do one thing. At this router, ASA will be going to use all 10 dot networks. So whichever network we'll be using, last subnet will keep it .10/. Okay, so /24. So that is done. Now it's booting. Meanwhile, let's configure your system here, which is Windows is not accepting. Try to find. Let's start this as well. Sometimes devices will not take up the configuration and fail to connect. So we need to just wipe it and start it so it will work. Like with ASA, it work, right? Okay, meanwhile, let's configure this if it is connecting. Here it is responding. So we can directly change this from ncpa.cpl also. And we have decided to use here 10.20.20.1. To 55 to 55 to 55.0 last 24. Okay. And default gateway, let's consider 10.20.20.10. This is what we'll be going to configure on your ASA on this side. Let's configure DMZ. If any font is not visible, you can let me know. Okay. Let's DMZ router here. DMZ we need to configure gig 0/0 IP address 10.2.2.125 to 55 to 55 to 55.0. Say no shut. IP route. And we'll be shooting this to 2.2.2.10. So it's done. Outside router. Configure terminal. This is your router 3. So let's call it outside router. Outside router 1. Interface gig 0/0. Okay. Address will be 11.1.1.125. No shut. IP route toward ASA. And address will be 11.1.1.10. Okay. We'll also configure here let's say username CCI privilege 15 and password is CCI. Line VTY 0,4 will have one. So default SSH and telnet will enable with this command. So we'll be enabling telnet here. Okay. So let's say login local. And transport input telnet. Now, if you want to get the graphical access of any router, you need to first enable HTTP on the router. So to enable HTTP, so you can use command IP HTTP server. It will enable it. If you want to go with the secure server, which is HTTPS, if you will be going to use, then you have to use HTTP secure server. So can you guys give me one information? What is this HTTPS? Yes, it is a protocol, but where you have seen this, where you use this protocol, at which layer? Let me first go with this HTTP. See, HTTP means what? See, usually what people say, many students say HTTP will be able to see at the browser. Whenever you will be accessing anything over the internet, right? You will be able to see this at application layer, and it is, yes, full form is correct. Hypertext Transfer Protocol and Secure Transfer Protocol. Correct. Port number 80 and 443. So what it do actually? Do we only open web pages with respect to this? Yes, any answer is fine. Okay. Yes, Pawan, Adarsh, Palmer, Praveen, Viraj. See, I'll just give you a brief idea. We'll not go in too much into HTTP protocol, but I'll give you a slight idea what HTTP is. Okay. See, HTTP protocol is a transfer protocol. People are saying it is for browser or browsing purpose we use it. No, guys. HTTP protocol is a transport protocol. And for what reason we use this? To transfer your data at something. See, when this protocol came in 1970, this protocol came into first picture. So after this protocol only, your internet user has been increased. So IP version 4 exertion started. Okay. So if I want to just give you a couple of information, let me just show you. See, in early 1990s, when IP version 4 exertion started, because in 1980s, this protocol come into the picture. Now, this HTTP protocol is a hypertext protocol. Now, what is the meaning of this protocol is when you will be accessing something over a remote location, right? So consider you're having a server, okay? And to this server, at this server, you will be having different files. So this server is holding, let's say, HTML file, which is a web page. So usually people use this for web page. That's why we think HTTP is only used to get web pages loaded at your browser, but that's not true. Then another thing is if you are having a web server or any server, on that server, if you're having a MP4, like which is a video, audio, or any kind of file, any file you can have it there. If you will be requesting that server with the language, which is a plain text language, and it is a hypertext. So there are two terminologies you need to understand. One is HTML, hypertext markup language. With this, we will be developing web pages. And another is your TP, hypertext transfer protocol. This is transporting something, means I'll just say access resources. Okay. Now, how? I'll show you the demonstration as well. See, HTTP protocol is what? When you will be having some data at remote server over the internet. So it's very first when actually internet start growing, we don't have any method to access any resources over the internet. What is the meaning of network? Network is what? A collection of devices in order to share your resources. So if you want to share the resource, then only you need some protocol, some mechanism to communicate with the server and access those data, right? So from this server, if you'll be going to fetch some data, you will be using some methods. So there will be some methods like get, put, push, delete. This will be HTTP methods. And if you are using some mechanism, you also need to understand whether your request is successful or not. What is the issue is going with this? So you will be going to request to the server with the protocol, which is HTTP. So will not go too much into technicalities, but if you are looking at URL, you will be seeing it as a scheme. But as a network engineer, we understand it as a protocol, right? But in browser context, if you see, it is showing you as what? It is showing a scheme. So either you are going with secured mechanism or you are going with encrypted mechanism. Correct. So there are methods are under your HTTP, which is used here, which is, let's say, this methods. So if you see, HTTP methods will be what? You will be doing crude functionality, which is create, read, update, and delete. So if you see here, to create something at your server, you will be using post method. If you will be going to read something at your server, means you will be requesting something. Hey, please give me that for reading purpose. So you'll be using get function. If you will be updating something at server, which file is already there and you want to update it, so you can use it put method. If you want to delete something at server, you will be using delete method to delete it. So this all methods what you will be using with HTTP. Another thing is, so some messages need to exchange. When you will be using such things, you need to get some code, because a status of your request will be inform you in this codes. So if you go and get any code which is in 100x, means 100, 101 or 100, which will be informational code. So if it is like there is a continue in a pages, or there is another information, if you want to highlight, you will be going to get respond as 100. If your request is successful, like we connect to the server and you get the respond from the server, your data is visible, then you will be going to get 200. Okay. This code you will be going to get. Practically, I'll show you this both. Then redirection. If some website you want to redirect to some other URL, you will be using 300x code to showcase that. So it is like permanently you have moved it, or you have not found that information on the server. So redirection status code will be visible. Many times you guys have seen 404, right? Not found. So when this error code come, because some you will be having some client side error, if it is occurred, then you will be able to see 404 not found or 401 unauthorized. And if server side, if there is some error, we will be getting errors in 500 series. Okay. So 500 is like internal server error, or 503 or the services which is not available. Such kind of issues will be able to rectify by just looking into this error codes. Okay. If you want to verify this thing, so let me verify this as well. Yes, internet is visible here, right? So see, I'm accessing my GitHub page here. From my GitHub, I'll be fetching one HTML document. Okay, very first time I'll fetch. See, this is login.html, which I have already put into my GitHub page. This is infosecnights.github.io. This is my GitHub repository with the name of Nginx demo. So from my GitHub, I'm fetching out one web page. So it's a just dummy web page. If you pass anything, it will be not having any values here. Okay. So this is web page what you are loading. Now from the same repository, I have one text file here, which is 1-20.txt. Observe the extension which I'm using and the protocol which I'm using. I'm using HTTP method, and I'm fetching the .txt file, which is what? a different extension. See here, it is having 1 to 20 numbers inside that file. If I want to fetch a video, like we discussed, right? Your server can have multiple data types. It might be video, it might be your MP3, PDF, or any kind. So let's say there is one video I have kept with name, which is welcome.mp4. And see, one video should start. Okay. So such way, and if I just say the same video I have put into another HTML, which is web page with small w. See, the same video will be now represented in what? It's a web page what you are having. Inside that web page, one header information is there, and then you are able to see the video. So HTTP method will be able to fetch multiple different data types and access your resources over remote location. Okay. And that's what HTTP do. So when we are accessing this here, we are actually getting the graphical access of these devices with the HTTP. So this is a device. So resource means what? Resource means sharing. So you are sharing this console of this device over graphically over the internet to your internal network. Clear? Any doubts? Okay, so I guess good to go forward. Now, let's configure your remaining topology here. So we were on R3, right? So we configure your outside router. So let's configure your another outside router, which is R4 here. Interface gig0/0. IP address 11.1.1.126. 11.1.1. And one default route toward your outside network. And done here. So if you want to have telnet again here, you can configure telnet here with the same commands. So let me just keep it ready here. So username is CCI, privilege is 15, password is CCI. Line VTY. Local transport input telnet. HTTP secure server. Authentication local. Done. Okay. Now let's check. It's working now. Host name, let's say ASA only. Now we'll configure the interfaces, which is gig0/0, gig0/2, interface gig0/0 IP address. On gig0/0, we are using 10.1.1.10 255 255 255.0. Do we have to give no shut here? Yes, anyone? Show IP interface. Interface IP brief. Here IP goes after your interface. So nextly we'll go with your another interface. No, sir, by default, all interface of iOS. All interface of your switches are up by default, guys. See here. Your interface, it is protocol is up. Status will be administratively down. Until and unless you assign IP address, it will not come up. You have to pass the no shut command. Okay. Now your gig0/0 is done. Let's go for your gig0/2 and 3 first. So interface gig0/2 IP address. We have used here 10.2.20.20.20.10 255 255 255.0. No shut. Interface gig0/3. 3 is toward 10.2. So IP address 10.2.2.10 255 255 255.0. Show interface IP brief. And interface is up. Now only one interface we left with gig0/1, which is toward your outside network, which is 11.1.1.0 network. So let's say interface gig0/0 IP address 11.1.1.125 255.255.255.0 and no shut. So show interface IP brief. Okay. It is gig0/1. Give it to another interface. Gig0/0 is toward 1.1.1.10. Show interface IP brief. That's fixed. Interface gig0/1 IP address 11.1.1.10. Let's verify by pinging all the devices here. So let's verify first. Inside router is configured. Yes. And DMZ is also configured. Yes. So let's ping it. So can we directly ping to 10.1.1.1? Why we are not able to ping, guys? Do on ASA, we have to first configure the security and then only we can go forward. Otherwise, your interface of your firewalls will not work. You guys have studied, right?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah. So guide me then how we can configure this. So I'll be having idea like what all topics you guys are good with, so we can go in depth to the topics. Name and the security level we have to configure. Yes, correct. So we have not configured any interface with the name and security. Intentionally, I have not configured it. So can you tell me, show run interface. See, these all are what interfaces we are having. Interface gig0/0. Name if. This is inside one. So you can call it like inside. And by default, security level will be 100. So as we discussed, security level 100 will be used for who? Internal network, management network, and DMZ will keep it 50. So let's go with management gig0/2, interface gig0/2. We need to go with name if and call this MGMT. Security level will be 100. Yes, when we do not assign, they will come up, but communication is not possible without this configuration. Yes, correct. Praveen, correct. So interface gig0/, it's not visible. Three. Okay. Name if, and this is your DMZ. And security level, you can consider 50. 50. Okay. Now, and outside, do we need to configure for outside? Where it is gig0/1, name if, which is outside, and security level by default, we have to go with 0. So I'll be not configuring anything on gig0/1 because any traffic which is coming from outside to inside, we don't need to allow it, correct? So by default, the behavior of your firewall will be what? Traffic will be denied. On default behavior of your router will be permitted one. So when we'll be using ACL on the routers, router will be going to start with the deny. We'll be denying the traffic and then we permit it. Okay. So implicit deny and will follow with the permit statement to allow the other traffic. Similar way on ASA, by default traffic will be denied. So we have to start with the allow statement, then only your traffic will be allowed. Correct? Correct. Okay. Now, do I need to consider same security traffic permit on your management interface? What this command will do? If this is covered, you can let me know. Meanwhile, let's ping your device 10.1.1.1. So your router, sorry, Windows is not responding. Why? Because we have not configured this. So this was not responding previously. So we have not configured it yet. Test 1, 2, 3. Quickly configure this. And by default, you will not be able to get the response from Windows because Windows firewall will be blocking the traffic which is coming from the outside. So it is a host-based firewall. So we have already studied, right? There are types of firewall, network-based firewall and host-based firewall. So this will be virtual firewall and it's a host-based firewall. So it will be blocking any traffic which is coming outside the host. Okay. ncpa.cpl. 10.1.1.1, 255.255.255.255, 1.1.1.10. Done. Now verify again. So we need to see, you can allow firewall rule on your Windows firewall. So how to add rule? You can do that. You can go to the advanced setting. You can go and say inbound rule, new rule. Now how you will be going to apply it? So you can say it will be going to affect what? You will be going for program, you will be going for create port or what? So you can say all programs will be going to say use for all programs. Allow this connection here for all networks, which is here. Call it like it is ICMP rule. Okay. And verify it's working or not. Not, it is not taking effect. A temporary basis, we'll do one thing. We'll just stop this firewall. Just turn off it. Ping from your system. Can you ping to 1.1.1.10? Transmission failed. Okay, from ASS side, there is no problem. Maybe this image is having some problem because it's not accepting only. Okay, let's verify it on only inside router whether it's working here. So enable ping 10.1.1.10. You are reachable to the ASA. Now ASA to DMZ, are you able to reach? So DMZ IP will be 10.2.2.1. Yeah, I'm trying to management PC as well. So DMZ router, we have set the default route, right? Do show run section. Yes. Yes, we are reachable only. Oh, here on DMZ, we use IP which is 125. And I have specified here which is, that's why. If your IP is 125, how we can ping? Now we'll ping it and verify it. See, reachable. Now check the management PC. Management PC should work. Let's first verify. Do management PC have the IP or not? ncpa.cpl. So 10.20.20.1. Let's verify here. 10.20.20.1. Here, this firewall we have not shut down. So stop this firewall here. And verify connectivity from here first. 10.20.20.10. And you are reachable, right? So AS should be responding now. And see, you are reachable. Means that image is having problem, guys. So we can do one thing. We can just shut down that and we can go for a new one. Let's keep it off. We'll verify everything on this inside router. Otherwise, we could verify it on Windows as well. Okay. So basic connectivity is done. So let's check the outside router once before we go forward. So if I ping outside router, will it work? 11.1.125. 26. You are reachable. How it is working, even though if you are from outside world, right? So it's security we need to check. Show interface IP or show run interface first, which is your gig 0/1. Security level is 0, right? Yes, Praveen. Without ACL, how you are communicating? You need to use ACL first, right? You guys are there? Archana, are you from ASA batch? Others? Palmer? We have to use comment. Okay. So let's go for your now. First, address translation. Let's understand what is address translation. So can you guys let me know what is network address translation in general, what you guys have studied in your CCN and CCNP? Private IP to public IP convert as a private IP cannot routable. Yes. See, in your document RFC 1918, it is state that because your IP version 4 IP exertion started, due to that, IANA have come up with the temporary solution to secure, like to save the exertion of your IP version 4 address. The public IP pool, we have put some IP for private use, and we have declared that those IPs will be not routable. So in RFC document 1918, this range of IP is specified, which is 10.0.0.0, 10.172.16.0.0, and 192.168.0.0. CID array will be 8, 12, and 16. This is not routable. Network address translation we required in couple of states. So let's say when you want to go from your inside network to the outside network, you will be going through the firewall. So either you can do translation here at router level also, we have understood, right? We can do the translation. Now understand how we can do that same translation at different level. Understand it like you are having a IP, you are having one ISP connection. So here you took one ISP connection, you are having one public address here. Okay, so this public address will be your identity when you are going out. Okay, we are not talking in respect to any organization yet. Let's go to a small level. Let's say your house, you are having one ISP connection. That ISP gave you one public address, but inside your house, you will be using multiple devices. Like you are having a laptop, couple of laptops, couple of mobile you are using. Now smart TVs also are connecting to the Wi-Fi, right? So you are using multiple devices within your system. So when you are connecting to within your system, you will be using private addresses here, correct? So for this communication, you don't require any translation? Yes, we do require it. How? Because private address will not communicate with the public address directly. You need to translate that address. The translation job should be done with the router. And before this router, you will be using couple of devices, right? So this router will be doing translation at your home. So that router know what all the devices are connected, and how router differentiate between multiple devices with the port numbers. So port number, you will be able to understand which device is requesting for what resources. So you'll be able to differentiate with this, with the couple of IPs with respect to port numbers. So this one way public to private address and private to public address translation is getting done. But at organization level, how we can do this? Consider now organization. See, technically organization is having so many IPs. They are having IP pools. But consider this is your small office where you are having two departments and only one firewall is there. Okay, and one is for management thing you are having. So consider you are having one IP. So here you can do one translation. So your identity will be one. So let's say you're having one public address. So one public IP you are having, and from this one public IP, you will be going to have communication with different department. Now, inside this, you can have the same identity and everybody can do the same. But let's say the same IP will be here on different port number. Let's say port number 10 and port number 20 is going for another department. Now, when they will be communicating, you don't want to use the public address inside your local system. So what we will be doing? We will be translating that address. So the same thing you can do here. You can translate this address for your different department. Let's say here your IT department and here your defense, let's say development and research department, a DRD department. So here you can use the private address inside this. So this is what on router you will be able to use in organizations. Now, this translation, you can do it on your router. Consider this is your router. This you can do it on router as well, but router is not a first line of defense. When you will be receiving any traffic from outside, you can do network translation at your firewall as well. So whichever firewall will be applying, so here only you can understand the traffic which you can trust and which you can not. So you'll be having a list policy. Based on those policy, you'll be going to take a decision. And whenever traffic is coming toward your ASA from outside world, you will be going to check, okay, this is the traffic. Outside identity, you don't want to use inside. So you can do translation here. And when you want to go from inside to outside, then also you can say my internal identity, I don't want to disclose outside. So I'm doing a translation, and here you can do the translation. So both way you can do this. Network address translation go like this. You can do private to private translation. You can do public to public translation. And you can do public to private and vice versa. Okay, private to public. So 4 translation you can do here. So you can get questions in interview, how many ways you can do the translation. So you can do public to public, public to private, private to private, and public to private. So vice versa, it's also possible. So all kind of translation can be done. So there are a couple of ways you can do this. So let's understand first in perspective of your firewall, how we'll be going to use this translations. So see, let me just get. Yeah. Network address translation. Now, under your network address translation, we can learn two things. One is your NAT and another is your PAT. Now, network address translation is only translating your one address to another address, means changing the identity of one address to the another address. Port address translation means along with IP, you are also changing the port number. So default port number and custom port number you will be able to use. Now, port number is address we are using a transport layer, right? So transport layer, the addressing is used by its transport. At transport layer addressing, what we are using, that is port number. Now, first, what is the ports? So I'll give you a small brief idea about what is the port is. Port are having port number categorized in three. So we are having well-known port, registered port, and dynamic port. So let's understand what is this well-known port first. So well-known port, what is the port number for HTTP and HTTPS? Yes, Praveen, Viraj. 80 and 443. How you know about it? Thus, this is 80 and 443. Why it is not 1,200 or 2,000 something or 50,000 something? Because see, when we say yes, answer is correct, but see why we are knowing this, because this is a well-known. IANA have decided it. Yes, who decided? IANA. So if you go to IANA's website, you will be able to see IANA is managing what all resources: number related resources, domain related resources, AS number related, and protocol related information, right? So see, if you go to the IANA's website, you will be able to find these details. So internet numbers authority, see what all things IANA is responsible for: domain related information, number related information, protocol related information, right? So along with this, port number are also decided by IANA. So if you see, let's go back to here. What IANA have decided, it is ranging from something. So it is 1 to 1023, which is 1023. This will be well known. Why it is well known? Understand it like can you check email address? Means right now, if you want to check your email address, can you check the email address? Yes, right? If I want to check email address by 4 a.m. in the morning, can we do that? Yes, right? So anytime when we want to check, we can check it. Means server who's serving this service, which is an email service, need to serve that service for 24/7, 365 day till that server die. Means until and unless server is up, that server need to serve something. But that is a definition of server, right? You are serving some service and that service should be up 24/7. So the service what you are serving, that should be known to everybody. If it is a standard services what you are serving, that standard services should use some standard port numbers. So how I should know? I will be going to connect to the HTTP protocol, and that HTTP protocol only will be going to listen on the particular port number, and that port number should be the well known. So if it is a well-known port number, then only you can understand that this particular protocol will listen on this port number only. Otherwise, the communication will be very difficult, and designing your system or designing your architecture and communicating with one system to another system will be the different task. So that difficulty we don't want to hear. In very first place, we need to understand, when we study CCNA or CCNP, we understood one thing, right? Network architecture model. So why we had requirement for network architecture model in the first place? Because we want to keep interoperability. So in order to have interoperability in a smooth way, we used to follow the network architecture documents. So one network to work, there are physical and a logical requirement is there. So when you are having physical requirement, what all the physical requirement you will be going to use, that will be all state with the standard documents. So there are entities like IANA, IETF, IEEE, ISO. This will be going to maintain this requirement for your networks to work. Along with this, we need to have the logical requirement, where logical requirement will discuss what all protocols will be going to work, how protocol will be going to communicate, which language they will be using, what all the algorithms working in background, how the transaction will happen, if there will be reporting is required, how reporting should be done. If you're looking for the physical connectivity, if you're using AC current, DC current, what all the connectors you will be using, all this documented properly by these entities. So everybody from world, everybody follow the same set of documents. So everybody understand, okay, you are using the same protocol and that's a standard what we have decided. So we need to follow the same. So if you're using any standard protocol, that will be well known to everybody. So if everybody follow the same, so we will be having a range for well-known protocols. So they will be following the range 1 to 1023. So like HTTP, SSH, Telnet, these all are known one. But see here, let's take one example here. I'll be showing from my system. Okay, let's see from this system I can show you. So pay attention here. From this server, if you pay attention now, I'm having communication from my what address here? Can you see this is my private address? And this private address is having communication over internet on service, which is HTTPS. And we already understood HTTP service is not only for the browser, it is for transporting your data. So this server is actually communicating in a background to this public address, and they are exchanging some data. So if you see here, I'm having here private address, listening on the port number 59,519. This is my public address. On 443 port number, it is listening. So the communication is happening here on port 443. This is a well-known one. So when you are having a standard services, they will be using these port numbers, right? So 443. Why we call it well-known? Because it is decided by IANA. It is well-known to everybody. So there is something is happening in between. This also you need to understand. This is what happening. We already discussed, right? Private address to public address communication will not happen directly. So here what is happening? Network address translation is happening. But that we'll discuss in a minute. But first let's understand what is this port numbers are. So now let's go forward and discuss what is this registered port number. See, if you pay attention on registered port number, consider you are having a Windows system and Windows server is pushing some security patches to your system. How your system is getting patched up, or any networking devices. Let's say IBM is having device and IBM server is like pushing some updates to the IBM devices. How these devices communicate? So a specific, you're having a product and you want to serve that product, or you want to give supplement to that product. So any communication want to have later point out for your particular product. So companies will be using a particular port numbers. So if you go online, if you just type the registered port number list, you will be able to see what all companies are registered with which all are port numbers. So their product, they will be able to listen a particular service which will be pushed out by the servers. So server will be going to communicate, or any central system will be going to communicate with their product. So product to owner communication is happening with registered port numbers. So this will be ranging from your 1024 to 49,151. This will be the range. Okay. Now, If you go for the dynamic one, dynamic range will be 49,152 to 65,535. This will be the dynamic port number range. Now, dynamic port also known as a short lives. Now, why it called the short lives? We took one example, right? Regarding we are checking the emails. How we can check the emails? Email can be checked anytime. Means when user want to check your email, user need to have the port number to have the communication. Otherwise, the differentiation between your different device, different process from this device system will be not able to differentiate it by the router. So in order to have the communication, you need to have the port numbers. So port numbers which you will be using locally currently, and then you will be able to fetch information from the server. So server need to serve that information for 24/7. So server port number are well known. When you will be forming this connection, let's say you are forming a TCP connection. So before you form the TCP connection, there will be TCP block will be exchanged. So transmission control block will be exchanged. This block will be holding information about your sockets. This socket will containing information like your IP and the port numbers, along with other parameters are also there, like Nagel algorithm, all security checks. There are some other things are there, but we'll not discuss that much here. But in short, what TCP block will be going to exchange this socket. This socket will be exchanging first necessary requirement, and then you will be going to start with your three-way handshake. Then the communication established. So three-way handshake. Correct? So that's how your communication happen. Now, why we call this short lives? Because whenever you are communicating to the server, right, you will be using it for shorter period of time. The communication what you will be using for shorter period of time. You check your email for, let's say, 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, you close the connection, right? So this three-way handshake will be like four-way handshake will be used there to terminate your connection, and connection is over. Now, next time, if you want to have the connection, you need a new set of port numbers. So this connection life, what you see, it is short lives. Means client when will be going to communicate with the server, that particular connection life will be short. So we call short lives. So dynamic port number also known as a short lives. And the range will be 49,152 to 65,000. So if you check here, the range what we have seen here, which is in 59,000, which is fall under dynamic port number. So client use dynamic port number and server use well-known port number. Also, they can use the registered port number as well. Clear? Any doubts here? Viraj, Palmer, Praveen, Adarsh? No? Good? Okay then. Good to go forward? So this is very basics of your port number. So let's understand what are the types of NATing we'll be having. So today we'll just have the overview. Tomorrow we'll do the practical. So let's see here. Now we'll understand your NATing types. So we'll be having dynamically done, statically done. Under your dynamic, we'll do dynamic start. Sanjay Garuda joining very soon. Dynamic NAT and dynamic PAT. All this will be going to do, okay? Then static NAT, static PAT. This also will go and will do. And we'll also go and we'll learn something called policy NAT. Policy based NATing also will do. Okay, so these types of NAT what we are having, and we'll go and we'll discuss this. So due to IANA, IP address block which is assigned by ISP only allowed and reserved pool are not allowed. So we need to have the address translation. So ISP in term will be individually defining this policies on your devices will be going to translate for your different department. If you want to have different identity over your internet, if you're having set of poles, we'll be going to use this different ways to communicate it. Dynamic means dynamically it will go and do. Statically means static one-on-one mapping you will be going to do for your NAT and port translation. Okay. So NAT classification, if you need to understand, let me just take you to how much time we left with. Okay. So see, NAT classification. When we translate our address, right, public to private to public or public to private, it is known as inside NAT or source NAT, because the source is what? Inside. If you remember on router, if you use NAT command, it is what? IP NAT, source, inside, and then you use static or dynamic, whether it's a list or you will be go with source, and then you specify the IP, correct? That is the command, right? Command will be like this, right? IP NAT inside source, first inside source, you go with either list or source, and then you specify the address, correct? So this way you'll be going to specify what this source means inside network translation. If you're doing, means within your organization, if you'll be having IPs, so inside IPs, when you want to translate, it is called inside NAT. Okay, or it also go with source NAT. Generally, we are translating our private address to our ISP assigned IP addresses. When the packet is going from your inside to outside, we translate our public address to corresponding private address when it is coming back. So packet coming from outside to inside, it will be outsourced to inside. And if it is going from inside to outside, it is source to destination translation. So when we translate the remote addresses on our network, which will be private to public. So this is known as what? Outside NAT or a destination NAT. So we understood this terminology, inside NAT or outside NAT. Or let's say it is called destination NAT. So these two terms we need to understand. When you are doing inside one, how are you doing? You are doing for your private to public one. And when you are doing outside one, so you are doing private to, sorry, public to private NAT. So somewhere you will be able to follow source NAT term, inside NAT, outside, destination, public to private or private to public. These are the terminologies we use in context of your network address translation. So you guys are good with this? Any doubts? Okay, good then. Now, another way to classify your NAT is by whether NAT entries are created manually or they are created when the flow is required. So how you are creating these policies, whether you will be going to create this statically or dynamically, that will be decided the classification. So we already discussed statically you can decide where one-on-one mapping you can do, or dynamically you can have set of poles, and from that pole you will be able to do this. Okay, so if you need to follow this dynamic NATing, this type of NATing is used when the client on inside network want to have the communication with internet. So NAT will be using to translate this public address to the private address. You will be configuring the pool of addresses where NAT devices will be picking out the IP from the pool and then converted and having the identity from the set of pools and then go out and transit. So if you want to just understand here, let me just draw and make sure you follow. This is your firewall. Now here you will be having a set of pools. In this pool, you will be having address, let's say 101.1.1.1.1 to 101.1. Let's say 200. You are having 200 IP pools. This range hole is reserved. Now you have set the policy on the devices. So you are having a policy here, which is a NAT policy. I'll call it just, let's say, dynamic NAT policy. And due to this dynamic NAT policy, now whenever traffic is coming in, right, from internal network, and if you want to go out, first it will be go and look for the what? Policies. Based on policies, it will be going to select exit interface, and along with that, it will select the translation, and then it will go out from the exit interface. So dynamically, whichever IP is available, it will go and do this. But what happened in organization, sometimes some servers or some services need to have the static IP, or means need to have the a steady identity over the internet. So we know static IP, right? So can you guys let me know what is static IP in general? What all information you guys are aware of static IP? Yes, it doesn't change, but for what reason we need it? Yes, Praveen, Viraj, Adarsh. For unique identification over internet. Yes, correct. So see, assume that you're having a server or you're running one website. Now that website should have the steady identity over the internet, right? So when you will be going to communicate, let's say you're having here a website, and this website need to be communicated over the internet. Now anybody would try to communicate from outside your server and want to fetch this website. If this website is not having a steady IP, if this website is not having a steady public IP, how your user will be going to communicate, correct? So to keep this identity steady, unique, and more reliable, you will be going with the static addresses. So this can be done. See, mostly sometime you can get this static IP from ISP, but what if anybody from anybody from over the internet want to communicate to your resources, and you are holding this website now inside your organization? So there are two terms need to understand. So let me show you. Consider now this is your firewall. First thing, if you're having website hosted on some third party, so third party, if you host it, they will provide you the static IP. This can be provided by ISPs, and that communication will happen like how? Over the public ISP, they will be communicating, and then your third party will be going to give you the identity for your IP. You will be only managing the content and the website, but we are not discussing website based, we are discussing network based. So if it is your organization, so anybody can pass, like anybody can public with public IP, they will be communicating to you. So traffic will be permitted, and they will be going to check for what IP you are trying to communicate. Let's say over you have specified specific IP and the domain name, but internally you can host that IP on the private address also. So let's say public IP, they will be communicating to you. So let's say somebody try to communicate on port number 443, means which protocol they are using. And let's say IP they are using, let's say 101.1.1.5 on this port number. If they try to communicate, means somebody try to access HTTP request, and along with this, what resources they try to access? Let's say login.html. So means they are trying to access the web page at this port number, correct? They are requesting you to give this web page on this port number via this IP. So identity of your network is public address. On this port number means HTTPS, and looking for this resource, which is the HTML page. But this is your outside identity. So inside identity can be different. Let's say inside I have hosted this. So inside I can host on anybody, right? Let's say inside I have hosted this website on, let's say 10.10.10.10. Now we know 10.10.10 we can't send out. This is not possible. So we can do translation here. So at this state, any request which is coming from public and going for private, I'll change the address. So network translation can be done here. So your firewall here will be playing vital role, will be allowing, or like it is totally dependent on your firewall. Now, if the translation is done, then public to private and private to public communication will happen. So in this way, you need static. In this context, you require static NAT or PAT because port address is involved. So you require static NAT and static PAT. So let's say why port address is required, like why port translation is required. See, globally you are using 443, that is well known, but internally I'm not using 443. Let's say internally I'm using something like 1001, this port number. So I can convert this request which is coming for this web page to a customized port number, and that request can be go on this server and can access this particular document or web page or any resources, and I can forward this request over the internet. So for this context, you require static NAT and PAT, and this practically we'll do tomorrow. I'll show you how this can be done. Along with this, now let's understand. Now dynamically you can understand, you can have a set of pools and many places you require to communicate, like many devices from internal want to communicate with the outside one, then you will be going with a dynamic pool. That you guys are aware of it, right? If no, you can let me know. I can explain that again. But here, if you understand this, let me know you followed or not, so we can go forward. Yes, Palmer, Praveen. Yes, Praveen, no problem. See, follow here. Let's assume you are communicating from your location. Let's say you are at Bangalore. From Bangalore, you want to access the server, which is server you are using. I'm just using here, let's say www.nh.com. Okay. You want to access this URL. URL means you are trying to access what? Web page, right? You want to log in into NH portal to access the videos. Now, this whole website I have deployed on my server on private address. So my firewall will be going to convert this request, whichever you are requesting for HTTPS. So actually you will be, see, there is a packet flow behind it, right? So you will be going first resolving your default gateway's MAC address, then you will be submitting a request on internet, then DNS will be querying this, DNS will be resolving this IP address for this domain name, then IP will be go and pass, IP will go and reach on your firewall, firewall will be looking for these policies. So we are directly skipping this whole point and we are discussing what? When you are fetching out this information, we will be resolving this domain name to IP and the port number, because you are requesting on scheme which is the HTTPS. When request is coming to the server, ASA, so ASA will be going to discuss what? Hey, there is a traffic which is requesting port number 443 coming from address which is a public and wanted to have up the, see, this is your own address. This is the your own identity. So 101.1.1.5, this is NH identity. And let's say you are having some different address, we'll take your 201.1.1.2. This is your identity. You are communicating from this address to destination address, which is 101. So what firewall will do, will look for this address and say, okay, you are looking for this address. Okay, this is my address. Yes, fine. This is my address and I have this address in my system. What my policy say? My policy say, anybody who try to communicate to this address on this port number and want to have some resources, I'll be changing your request. This address will be changed and this request will be fetched for private address. So private address will be going to fetch these details on the particular port number. So you will be converting this request. So request actually came for what? Follow now this. Request here you made for nh.com. You requested via HTTP. So I'll just write here full thing. HTTPS ::forward, let's say www dot. This is what you requested. Now, when you requested this, the actual meaning of this word 443 and IP of this server, which is 101.1.1.5. In technical term, numbers, what it will be matters. Now, we are good with the text, not with the numbers, but devices required numbers. So this is what actually you're requesting for. Then you are using here some method. You will be using HTTP method, which is get, put, post. So I'll just use get method. So you're requesting over get method. You will be having source IP. So let's say your IP will be 201.xxxx. Okay. This is your address. So you're going from this address to this address on this particular request. Now what ASA will do? ASA will be going to convert this whole request by looking into policies and we'll say, okay, this address, okay, which port number? 443. Okay, I have NAT and PAT policy. So here it will be PAT policy will work. PAT policy saying that any request which is coming for 443, go and reconvert it into 1001. IP, any IP you're coming, if you're coming for this particular IP, which is my public address, I'll be converting my request to, let's say 10.10.10.10. And rest content will be remain same, which you are looking for this domain name login page. After this, there will be resources what you are looking for. So in URL, let me show you what all the contents are there. See, which is out of context, but which will be helpful to understand. See here. Pay attention. In URL, here you will be specifying the port number. It is nothing but a protocol what you will be used to connect. So this is a transport protocol. Plain text communication or encrypted communication. That's it. This is the identity, authority of your domain, authority of your organization. On which port number? Because this is listening on particular port number. So port number will be here. So here you will be see 80443. This is the schema. We can club this together and we can keep outside. Now path. This is the actual location of that particular document. Because what I already showed you, right? When we access something, which is on server, and server will be going to manage this document at particular location. I showed you one example here, right? See this GitHub one. See, this is my GitHub link. On my GitHub link, can you see here? HTTP is a scheme. This is the domain name. Infosec security night dot. This is called domain. GitHub.io. This is a domain which is freely available. But if you are going for your own, you have to pay for this. So again, here you will be having top level domain, second level domain, third level domain. So root, everything will be with respect to your DNS now. So we'll cover this later. If you have any doubts, you can let me know. I'll have a separate session where I'll explain you a DNS concepts. But for now, this is what the name which I have decided. So this is my authority. This is my domain. And this is my repository, means this is the folder. In simple term, it is a folder. Inside this folder, I'm having a resources. So this is a path for this particular file. So here I have showed you one thing. I showed you with login.html. I have showed you with MP4, which is welcome.mp4. I also have showed you the same thing with text file, which is text file name is 1-20.txt. See what happened now? Different text. This is the location for this, but default location will be what? This will be the default location. So it is fetching from my server at this folder. These many resources are kept. I can show you this all resources in my GitHub page. So let me just get the GitHub page. So you also can follow them. Give me a second. It is having. Which way I can go and do this? Let's say this will be working. Or too much security. And here it is. See, pay attention. At my github.com, this is my repository. Can you see infosec night? This is my name. So this is my identity over GitHub. This is my GitHub page. Under this, I have created one repository with the Nginx demo. There is a testing API, then deleted API. Like there are other projects which we work in automation section, but under your Nginx demo, if you open this folder, for now it is folder, for us it is folder. And if you open this folder, you will be able to see what? These all are resources which I have. So this is different resources we are having. 1-20, which is a text file. This is the image. If you follow this, you will also fetch the image also, okay? Then you can see these all are different like web page, MP4, text file. I've kept here on this server. I'm fetching out anywhere in browser, anywhere like over the internet, we are fetching this. So when you are fetching this, there is an identity for this. So if you copy this, okay, let's say you want to get the information for this. So let me use here. Can I directly ping to this? HTTP is not required while you're pinging. And only ping to the domain name. That is also not working. So let's only ping to this. See, only github.com. If you see here, it is showing github.com. And if you see the URL, you will see what? github.io. So they're using redirection. They will be using different domain services. So they will be having set of domain services they will be using to host our resources. So identity of your github.com will be 20. This is 20.207. This will be your original identity when you are accessing from the internet. And that's what you have to understand. When it is request coming from internet, you will be having one identity. But now imagine under GitHub, how many users are there? Now for all users, can you have the same IP? No. Like VRF, have you guys studied VRF on routing section when you done? Yes, no. Confirm me so I can give you a brief idea what it is. No, okay, so no problems. Pay attention. VRF is nothing but a router. Router will be having a separate routing table for separate customer or separate department. So assume that you are having 3 departments connected to each other. Router will be having a same IP. Let's say 10.1, whole 10.10.10.1, 10.10.10.1, and 10.10.10.1. Usually it is possible to assign the same IP on the interface of the router. No, it will throw you the overlapping error. So that is not possible if you are using VRF. VRF means virtual routing and forwarding. Router will be using the same IP on this all sub interfaces, and end of each sub interface, you will be having a separate department. So they will be maintaining a separate routing table for each one. So they will not communicate with each other. They will communicate from inside to outside. So this is possible. Similar way what GitHub is doing, GitHub is having one DNS And under that, they will be having sub DNS. So main identity will be GitHub, which is a public address. Under that, you are having different DNS. So they will be creating sub interfaces like thing. So you'll be having sub domain, and then you will be communicating with those subdomains. So this is what happening. So we can understand this in tomorrow's session, like how translation can be done, that we can understood. Any other topics you want to learn, you can just let me know what all topics you guys feel confident. Like if you feel less confident, you can let me know so I can give you a brief on that. So let me stop here. We will be winding now.